Hey there, men. Happy Truck Talk Thursday to you fellas. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you listening to the Wolf and Iron podcast. And if you're just tuning in for the very first time, welcome. You're part of something that's unique, I believe, and much needed. You know, Wolf and Iron was put together to help men to heed the high call on their lives. And what you're listening to is really an off-the-cuff podcast episode. We do this series called Truck Talk Thursday on Thursday, as you would imagine. And it's relatively new, but it is something that I've wanted to do for some time and just kind of have a way of speaking to you guys, frankly, just off the top of my head, about something that's on my heart. And get rid of some of the technology, get rid of some of the pomp and some of the introduction and stuff like that, and just get right down to business. But before I do that, I want to tell you guys about our Facebook group. We've got a Facebook group of guys out there called the Wolf, over in the what's called the Wolf and Iron community. And just a fantastic group of high caliber men. And I know all of you guys out there listening to this because you want good conversations. You want, guys who are sharing some deep thoughts that are really getting into the muck of life, that are having some fun, but then where men can actually be and speak like men and build each other up. Well, that's some of the stuff that's going on over there. So, look, I want you to be a part of it if you're not already. Head over to wolfandiron.com/thegroup. wolfandiron.com/thegroup. That'll take you over to our Facebook page. There'll be some questions to answer. We don't let just anyone in, so we keep the things, like I said, high caliber over there. Well, I want to talk today about hitting the bullseye. And this really comes from a conversation that I was having with a man I very much respect. All of you F3 guys out there who are listening would know who Dredd is. He's one of the founders of F3 and also known as David Redding to some of us, as his birth name would be. Anyhow, Dredd is a guy he's an inspirational man in many ways, but he's also just multifaceted in the things that he does. And I had a chance to talk to him a few months ago, actually now, just kind of one-on-one. And he's a lawyer by day. He does this sort of counseling, mentoring of guys, I guess, by morning. And by early morning, before all of that, he's an F3 participant, but he's also a founder of a growing movement of guys out there getting it done. So if you guys haven't been to an F3 morning beatdown, or maybe that's not a thing in your area, well, you should at least check and see. You can go to f3nation.org and see what they're all about. But basically, it's a movement that started here in Charlotte, helps men to become better leaders. And there's a better tagline than that. I just can't think of it right now. But anyhow, I'm talking to Dredd. And I asked him, I said, hey, look, I appreciate you doing this. It really means a lot. How in the world do you balance being a lawyer and kind of helping to manage the growth of F3 and all the other stuff that you do? And he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said, I don't really believe in balance. He says, I really try to take more of a bullseye approach. And he elaborated on that. And I'm going to do the same thing here. This is where it comes from. So when we talk about balance, we're really thinking about how much time do I spend at work versus how much time do I spend at home. That's usually where this balance, work-life balance comes in. And Dredd just kind of kicked that out the window and said, no, it's really more about the bullseye. What's the main thing that you're targeting? And that just really resonated with me. And he used the example, being a family man, that his bullseye is his wife, his kids. Primarily, I think his wife right now. But in any case, that's his bullseye. And there's some things outside of that are good to focus on, but they're not the main thing. And so I thought we'd break this down in this episode here a bit. Number one, you got to figure out what your bullseye is. Okay, and I think it is a true statement. If you're a family man, you've got a wife, if you have kids, family helps to kind of focus a man, I believe. It helps us to get some of the nebulous things that we would rather be doing in life, we don't get to do. And sometimes that's a good thing. I've talked about this in previous podcast episodes before. But the family helps us to focus our attention and our efforts on the main thing. And that is our family. That's our bullseye. Now, there are other things that we get to do outside of that, such as going to work or maybe mission-oriented type of things, but service-oriented type of things. But the family is the main thing. Now, I can already hear some of you guys going, no, Mike, you got this all wrong. I learned in Sunday school that Jesus is always supposed to be at the center of everything that I do, or God, however you want to phrase that. Okay, let me flesh this out a bit for you guys. Now, some people would probably gloss over this and just say, well, Jesus is like the de facto center of everything, so we don't really need to mention Jesus. No, actually, let's break it down and see how this works. You see, I believe God actually entrusts us with responsibilities and things to do, right? He gives us kids and says, I believe that you have the ability, the wherewithal to raise them up to be good, godly sons and daughters, right? I've given you a wife here who loves you in order that you can help lead her to be the most excellent woman that she can be, and then she can help you to be an excellent man. You guys can help each other raise a family. But I believe that we're really empowered to do those things through Christ. And so, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me to say family is my God-given responsibility, but I'm going to make God my bullseye, so therefore I'm going to be doing, praying all day or reading my Bible all day or enough so that I have the wherewithal to actually accomplish these things. And here's how it kind of works for me, and I think this is intended. You get in there to do the work. You find out areas in which you're weak, usually rather quickly. And God empowers you to do those things. Not just supernaturally. I don't mean that every case. Yeah, you need to read your Bible. Yeah, you need to be investing in time in prayer, and you need to renew your mind through the scriptures. And not to minimize that, but it's in the trenches, guys. It's really where you find God being active. You want to draw near to God as he asks you to in James. Get to work. Get to work and find a need for God. See where you're weak. See the areas where your children challenge you, where your wife challenges you. And I think you'll find very quickly that you are in need of something greater and beyond yourself. Okay, so we got that cleared up. And of course, I want any feedback on that. I could be totally off on that. Your bullseye gets a little bit more complicated when you're single. Like I said, family helps to focus a man. If you don't have a family, and obviously you can't control that scenario, your bullseye becomes a little bit more hazy. I think that ideally, it's best for a single guy to be about the business of serving some cause greater than himself. What that is, you get a chance to choose that. Sometimes it'll be put in front of you. Maybe it's something to do with your church. Maybe it's missions. Maybe it's helping homeless. Whatever the case is. At the same time, you may have a real strong desire to get married and have a family. And so, what is your bullseye then? Well, I think that your bullseye really becomes still about the work that you're doing, whatever that greater than yourself, outside of yourself service happens to be. But I think that somewhere on your target, very close to the center, has got to be the building up of yourself and making yourself a better man. Physically, that's important, right? You want to be attractive. But mentally, emotionally, begin preparing yourself, because here's the thing. The more prepared you are to be married, the more women you're probably going to turn down, and that's a good thing. And what I mean by that is you're going to find that your standards for a lady begin to go up, and you're going to see fewer and fewer examples of that, probably in your rather large social mix of people, work, church, however you want to include that, friends of friends. And I'll tell you guys, when you really begin to understand what makes an awesome woman, or just an awesome person in female form, you really begin to value her. All right, guys, instead of thinking about the relationship, I want to get married, I want to have kids, that's great. Man, I want you guys to be in a place where you just are super excited about the woman that you've met, because you've weeded out all the other ones, and you found, the diamond in the rough type of thing. So if you're a single guy, you got to be focusing on yourself. If you're a married guy, really, really close to your target, to your bullseye, on your target has got to be the building up of yourself. You've got to focus and put intentional time aside to build yourself up. Yeah, you're listening to a podcast. That's awesome. That's a good step in the right direction. What are you doing about that weight? What are you doing about the muscle that you want to put on, right? Keep having back pains. You keep having issues with, your body. Just chalk it all up to getting older. No, you're just not putting time aside for yourself to take care of yourself. And look, I'm preaching to the choir here, all right, guys? I'm saying this for myself as well. But when we begin to think about life as more of a target rather than a balance, and we begin to have things that are our focus, our bullseye, what are we really after? I think it helps put things in perspective. Because, I don't know if I can make this turn here while I'm while I'm chatting with you guys. I'm trying to say a deep thought, and I'm also trying to navigate traffic. It's actually a sleepy little country road. I'm just being careful. When you have this target that you're aiming for, rather than trying to think about the balance of all the different things, it becomes much more clear what you're shooting for. And it also becomes much more clear of how much time you actually want to spend on your job or on your business versus how much time you want to spend with your family. And you begin to ask the question, are these things that I'm working on today propelling me towards the center, right? Towards my bullseye? Or are they just other things that I have to kind of balance, right? And eventually, if you're talking about a true balance, everything gets like 10%. Work gets 10% of your effort, or family life gets 10% of your effort. Hobbies get 10%. Well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? But we all know that's not what happens. When you're trying to balance things, you have demands from work, and work says, no, we need like 75%, and we don't really care what you do with the other 25%. And you begin to see that you're missing the mark quite a bit. So guys, let's get focused. Let's get focused on what really drives us. What are we aiming for? What are we shooting for at the end of the day? What's our bullseye? Fellas, I hope this is helpful. And like I said, this is, the Wolf and Iron community, our online Facebook group, it's free. It's a great place to have these kind of conversations. Say, what are we aiming at? What's our bullseye? What are the things that keep us distracted? Love to have your feedback on this. All right, fellas, take care.